Our paper explores the relationship between affective computing and affective interaction. The former involves computers in measuring and responding to human emotions. The latter is more about creating emotional experiences that may include people reflecting on their own emotions. We explore this matter within the context of museums that are increasingly trying to create personalised, subjective and even more emotional visitor experiences. We collaborated with the creative design company Nextgame and the Munch Museum in Oslo, Norway. The museum houses a collection of Edvard Munch's famously emotional paintings, such as the Scream that we're looking at here. We collaborated with these partners to create a visitor experience called Sensitive Pictures. There are multiple parts to the visitor experience. In the first, they use their mobile phones to explore the gallery. They choose up to 6 different emotions, and for each one they're directed to go and find a particular Munch painting, to stand in front of it and listen to an emotionally provocative story. After viewing each painting and hearing the associated story, we then invite the visitor to self-report their emotional response. For this, we use the simple circumplex model of emotion that classifies emotions according to 2 dimensions. Are they positive or negative? That's their valence. And were you feeling aroused or calm? That's the level of arousal. And visitors set these using sliders. We also asked them to give some free text words that described their emotions at this point. After viewing as many of the 6 paintings as they want, the visitors then progress to the next part of the Sensitive Pictures experience. They sit down and they have a conversation with a fictional portrayal of the artist Edvard Munch. The story that he relates to them is chosen according to the painting that they express the strongest response to. They're invited to answer various questions. As they do this, a camera is observing their face, and computer vision software is trying to extract the particular emotions that they're feeling and record those. The final part of the experience presents the visitor with a postcard that summarises their emotional data. Part of this plots their self-reported emotions on the circumplex model. It's their emotional footprint in the experience. This is also fed back to them in text, along with the results of the computer vision analysis during the conversation. And then finally, they're asked, do you think this is actually what you felt? We studied sensitive pictures being experienced by museum visitors. We captured data from 132 of them and we interviewed 39 in depth. Key findings were: the emotional provocations were generally well received, though with some reservations from some visitors and some curators as to whether we were being overly directive. It proved difficult to capture emotions. In terms of self-reporting, it was challenging for visitors to boil complex emotions down to simple scales or just a few words. In terms of computer vision, people didn't appear to emote very visibly the complex emotions they might have been feeling internally. The postcards were well received, and the ambiguous presentation of the data appeared to provoke reflection. What we did notice as people discussed the experience was they had a tendency to align their views post hoc with the system's interpretation on the postcards. In other words, they tended to try and find a story of their emotional journey that agreed with what they thought the system was telling them. We also generated these emotion maps for each painting. It's plotting visitors' responses on the arousal and valence scales. And you can see, broadly speaking, that paintings have different emotional signatures in the experience. The Scream, bottom left for example, tends to have a pretty negative valence and tending towards a fairly kind of active arousal in the emotions that it appears to provoke in visitors. We believe that in general, Sensitive Pictures has quite a successful visitor experience. Indeed, the museum has chosen to continue developing aspects of this idea into a full-scale deployment. One of the reasons we think it worked is because it interleaves different emotional provocations and reflections into a single experience. And you can present this as being a trajectory, an emotional trajectory. So here we've sketched out the emotional trajectory of Sensitive Pictures. You can see how it oscillates between provocation and reflection, initially as the visitor encounters a first painting, and then maybe encounters different ones that maybe offer different levels of provocation, and then through the conversation with Munch, and finally through the Souvenir postcard. In summary, we suggest that Sensitive Pictures shows that emotional visiting experiences can employ techniques from affective computing in order to deliver effective interaction, and that one strategy for doing this is to create these emotional trajectories that interleave provocations, capture and reflection into an overall experience.